Hello and welcome. The Arab world desperately needs jobs, so much so that one economist described the situation as an Al-Qaeda's recruiter's dream. Well, job hunting is stressful enough in the West, but combined with the economic and political situation in many Middle Eastern countries, the outlook for young Arabs is often bleak. The International Monetary Fund research provides evidence of that, saying unemployment is a global problem, but it's worst in the Middle East and Muslim-majority countries of Africa and Asia, where almost half of those under the age of 24 are unemployed. The bleak picture is causing instability, fueling social tensions, and pushing the young men and women of the Muslim world to leave their countries in search of a future. Today we speak with the founder of an organization that aims to link college graduates in the Arab world with jobs. Ron Bruder is a successful American businessman who took a deep look at the problems of the Middle East after the attacks of 9/11. A year later, in 2002, he founded Education for Employment, or EFE, which now operates in several Arab countries. Also with us is Mayada Abu Jaber, who heads EFE's operations in Jordan and can give us some of the idea of the impact of the organization's efforts. She's also served as an educational consultant in the office of Queen Rania of Jordan. And don't forget, you can call in with your questions and comments at the numbers at the bottom of your screen. Great to have you both here.
Pleasure.
Hello.
Good to be here.
Ron, I've got to ask you to tell me how it all began. Now, you and I have spoken about this, but I want you to share with us, for our viewers, how you went from being this multi-millionaire property developer who suddenly was putting all his effort and all his money, a lot of your money, into helping the Arab world.
Well, basically, I had been a serial entrepreneur, and I had spent a lot of time in Belfast, in Ireland. And going back a decade, I saw how the religious factions weren't faring very well. And then I saw that when jobs became available and people had hope and a future, their attitudes changed radically. And so I feel strongly that if we can be a force for economic prosperity in this part of the world and give people jobs and hope and a future, it changes things, it creates a paradigm shift.
Is that the core mission of EFE then?
It is the core mission, yes.
Right.
We have found that there's a disconnect often between what is taught in the institutions and what is needed on the job. And we act to fill that gap, to create replicable models.
Let me get an email question to you before I get on to Mayada. Let me get an email question to you that came in from Pete in Cardiff in the United Kingdom, who says, the Arabs and the Palestinians have nothing to look forward to. Now, I want to follow up saying that there is the real fear that young Arabs, if left without work, if they've taken all this trouble to get educated and they have no work, they become disenfranchised and disillusioned, and this suddenly leaves them open for recruiting for extremists and so on. What is your research and stuff, has there been any evidence of that kind of thing, that you can make a difference, keep them away from the extremism?
We see that. We're operating right now in Gaza, and we've created programs that are bringing people into the workplace. And it's making a paradigm difference. It's making quite a shift. On a small level, but we hope to expand it radically in the years to come.
Well, Mayada, good to have you here. They're coming in from Jordan as well, and nice to have you in Washington, D.C. Let me ask you what you've seen in terms of results on the ground in Jordan.
We've had excellent results, Riz, in Jordan. We have realized in Jordan that there is a disconnect and mismatch between the skills needed by the private sector and the university graduates. And what we've done is we've taken these university graduates and given them courses, specific courses, to link them to the private sector. Jordan is booming now, and there is economic development, so this was a beneficiary to both sides. So it was a win-win situation really in Jordan.
Now, I know when you worked with the office of Queen Rania, that you were dealing with human rights and human development. And to what extent is the issue of the right to employment a human rights issue?
It is very important. I think it is the basis for economic development. I think education and employment is the basis for development. It makes a person feel good about himself. It gives him confidence. It makes him have an optimistic view towards life, rather than really getting desperate and feeling that, well, I'm worthless here in this country.
Now, of course, it's an email I'm going to put to you, and we get a lot of this, of course, from people who are disillusioned with the way America is acting in the Middle East, and this sort of connects a little bit. This email that came in from Mahar Osrean in Connecticut in the US says, there isn't enough goodwill to compensate for all the death and destruction caused by the Bush administration. A good start would be for the American people to apply the rule of law and hold those responsible accountable, and then it's only then that the American goodwill would start making a difference. Now, we have that kind of comment because people feel that help from outside in the US is not really expected. They feel that generally they see it negatively. How much do you find you're battling that?
Actually, the way we've operated our institution is that we've created a non-profit organization that is local. So they see us as a local organization, and with the continuous visits by the team in the States, by Ron, I mean, they look at them and say, well, this is the other part of America. These are the people who are going to help. This is the other part of opening dialogue, to understand each other, to share our experiences rather than the approach that's been used so far.
Let's get a question in from Iman in Cairo, who's on the line. Iman, what would you like to ask?
Yes, please. My question is that do we need in the Arab world like a public-private partnership to solve this joblessness problem, because governments cannot do everything?
All right, I'm going to ask you, Mayada, because you also worked with the government effectively.
Yeah, actually, this is an excellent question, and the way we are operating is building this public-private partnership. And the way we do this training program is we have to get in the buy-in of the private sector. We have to get the private sector to commit to jobs. They pay for the training, and then we get the youth to get linked to jobs. So it's not a training program per se. It's basically our indicator of success is how many of these youth we employ with the commitment of the private sector. So definitely that's the approach we are using in our work.
Now, Ron, as much as I'm focusing on the work that's being done on the ground, which is why I'm asking Mayada all these questions, I do want to ask you a little bit about the impact it's had on you as as a philanthropist. With an email that came in from the UK, Malcolm W. MacArthur said, ultimately, your project could lead to better relations between the Arab world and the West, but it may be a long time coming. I mean, have you found in setting up the organizations that there were challenges that made you feel sometimes this is an overwhelming problem?
No. I've been pleasantly surprised in that we have been received with open arms. We're operating in 4 countries now, and it's like going to any other venture, and I've been in ventures all my life. You find people that are more or less capable, and we've been very lucky. We have phenomenal country heads like Mayada running our operations on the ground, and we've found we've gotten amazingly passionate, sincere, hardworking partners to help us implement, local partners.
I have to ask you, and I mean this only because you're based in New York, you have a Jewish background, you witnessed the 9/11, and you set up EFE a year after 9/11 happened. How did the business community react to you saying, well, wait a minute, I'm focusing less on developing, real estate, and I'm going to go and help the Arab world?
Well, a lot of skepticism in the beginning. It was an idea, and it was an idea that didn't have any basis in reality. Now we have a powerful board in the US. We have a board in Madrid, which we call EFE Europe. We have projects on the ground. So a lot of those skeptics are being converted. And
has it grown the way you would expect? I know you've spread across a number of countries.
It's grown much quicker than I would have expected. We are operating, we've basically been operational less than 3 years. And I didn't expect us to be where we are for 6 or 7. Everybody said things will move slowly and you'll never get people to jump on board, you'll never get funding. And we have gotten tremendous partners, tremendous buy-in, much more so than I could have ever imagined.
Mayada, in Jordan, where you see, obviously there are people in need of work, how much of a viral effect is there that when you see people start to get jobs, the enthusiasm grows? How much are you able to build on the successes you have to further progress things?
In Jordan, we actually worked with areas that are very deprived. We don't want to look at people who already could get jobs. We went to deprived areas. We went to what's known as the pockets of poverty. There are 21 of those in Jordan, and we went to youth that had hope, that had the basic skills. We trained them, we linked them into jobs that they never thought they're going to get. I mean, they went into multinational companies. You look at them, you see the hope in their eyes. I mean, these students, these kids would have never been there. Some of them even are supporting their families. They have brothers and sisters, permanent housing. So they're quite happy. I mean, we have great impact in this 1 year.
And what are the areas that you're finding most success in? Which areas of employment?
Basically now we focused on the IT. We've really focused on the IT sector. We're looking into the education sector, training and developing teachers, because that's the basis of everything. Once you get proper teachers, you get students that are more thinkers, and you get more development.
Now, there was an interesting email that came in from Deborah in Kansas in the United States, who says, whatever will help increase understanding in education is usually the key. I'm for it, and I'm thankful for people like Ron Bruder, who evidently believes in social justice and doing good deeds with his money. It naturally leads me to ask, why are there not more Arabs doing this?
Actually, there are Arabs doing good deeds. In Jordan, we are building on the corporate social responsibility. And just recently, Her Majesty Queen Rania Al Abdullah, under her patronage, there was a big conference on corporate social responsibility, and there were these top businessmen, at least 4 or 5 of them, that went ahead and put their money into development projects, and they're encouraging all the rest. So our first funding is actually from a corporate from Jordan. So it's moving there.
We've got a call from Saudi Arabia. Good to hear from the Saudi Kingdom. Salah, your question, please.
There are many areas other than the Middle East where joblessness is extremely high, but we don't get the results that we get in the Middle East. I think the real issue, the root cause of the issue, is the outrage, the sense of outrage and humiliation that many people in the Middle East feel because of the destructive role of the U.S. in the Middle East, whether it's in Palestine, what they're doing in Iraq, Somalia. Wherever it is, they usually very arrogantly come in and try to impose their will, whether fair or just.
Right.
Or
Salah,
just
let's see what Ron has to face in the US. I mean, do you find yourself dragged into the politics of this at all?
No, I quite frankly don't allow myself to be dragged in. When it comes to all of these issues, we're Switzerland. We have no opinion. We are apolitical. We only have one belief, and the belief is very simple. It is that if people have jobs and people have a future and they have hope, that will create a peaceful planet. We don't mix in anything else. It's a place we don't go.
Well, I wonder, do you have to deal with the politics at all on the ground there in Jordan?
Not at all. I feel it's like a puzzle, and we're a piece in the puzzle. So we work on education, we work education for employment. I think it's for higher policymaker to really get into the politics of that. We don't want to get into politics because we want to keep a positive outlook towards this, and I think this is part of the solution towards this problem.
And now I know you came to Washington DC with a number of other sort of country heads for EFE with Ron, who's hosting you here, and you have a chance to talk to people from Egypt and Morocco and Gaza. What what sort of cross flow of information is there? How much are you learning from each other's ideas?
I think it's incredible. I've been speaking to our Gaza representative. I've been speaking to Egypt and Morocco. I mean, there are problems everywhere, and you see this. You see the skill gap in these countries, and they're so much similar. And we see that we can actually do some kind of a inter-regional training programs that we could share our experiences in each area. There are challenges everywhere, and we have to face the challenges. We have the refugee challenge. Egypt has the challenge of overpopulation. Gaza, of course, with the closure now, and then Morocco with their problems. So, we learn from each other and we share our experiences while learning.
That's the point, on how are you able to operate in a place like Gaza, which is so difficult? We met Mohammed from Gaza, who works with you before on this show, but how are you able to operate?
Well, two enablers as I see it. One is whenever we go into a country, I think I had mentioned that we affiliate and we create, or you mentioned, we have a local partnerships that move us forward. In Gaza, we've had a strong supporter in the form of CCC Construction, Consolidated Contractors, and they have been supportive financially, operationally. They have guaranteed jobs, and quite frankly, last and not least, they've given us a lot of credibility.
How much have you been able to bring in that sort of business background, the sort of connections you have, and perhaps the expertise you have in trying to help the project you have now, this sort of philanthropic project?
Well, I base it on a business model. We look at impact, we look at return on investment, we look at sustainability. We're constantly evaluating what we're doing. Like a for-profit, if it doesn't have a return on investment, we're prepared to move on and change it.
Where have you seen the most success of EFE's work? Which country, which area?
Oh, Riz, that's like asking which one of your children you like best.
I don't mean showing favoritism, but I mean...
I don't think there's one country that I could look at and say has done substantially. They all have different challenges, and they've all moved forward beautifully to overcome those challenges. Egypt has taken longer, for instance, but we have a brilliant country head there, and it's moving forward beautifully. Gaza obviously has had its issues because it's Gaza, but in each country, we have exceeded my expectations by a wide margin.
And my other, in Jordan, you have, I was there recently with the team and we were doing shows from there. You have specific problems. You have a large refugee influx from Iraq. How much is that affecting the efficiency with which you can work when you're trying to find jobs now? Obviously, there's greater competition for them.
It is a problem, and there are many other organizations that are actually working with the refugee problem. But I think slowly we're integrating within our society. I know we're working on teacher education, but I know that there are 5,000 students that are now in our public schools, which are already congested. So it is a challenge, but I think we all get together and solve this problem together. So
Now, how much are you, Ron, how much are you getting the buy-in from more NGOs and from governments and so on? How much are you finding they're seeing the success you had, as you say, the unexpected level of success, and they say, well, okay, this is something we can really support and you know, get involved with as well?
Some areas less than I would have expected. In terms of certain major foundations, it hasn't moved as quickly as I would like. Individual donors have moved quicker. Government support on many levels, US government and other governments, have been very supportive of our efforts. But quite frankly, one of the challenges, in order for this to have the impact that we anticipate, we need to scale up. We're now setting up these models. In addition to the jobs we're creating, there's a secondary benefit that I think may even be more powerful than the primary, in that we're pushing other institutions to focus on job creation.
All right. What do, in a line, what do you need now to make the work of EFE more effective, more efficient, and scale up?
What we need are good partners, good, powerful corporate partners in all the countries we're operating in, the US and in the 4 countries that we're in.
And Maya, from your perspective, what are your next steps? What, you know, you get back to Jordan, what would be the next steps you're taking?
we have started by training 75 students, and I think now it's time to scale up. I'm looking into increasing numbers. I'm looking into training more students, and hopefully have 4 parallel programs now running together. So I think we're looking into future more employment in Jordan for the youth.
And in particular areas you're thinking?
Yeah, it's teacher education, in IT, and in certain vocational training. So these are the 3 sectors we're focusing on now.
Now I have to ask, I mean, and I know Ron's sitting here, but if Ron Bruder wasn't doing this, who would be doing it?
Actually, it's a very innovative model. We've always thought of actually doing education, training, and we've always looked at education. We've not really linked them together. The Ministry of Labour has gone through a very ambitious plan. They've created something called the National Employment Center, where they match graduates with jobs. But the training bit is really very innovative, because you want to really raise the skills, because what the university graduates come up with is not the skills that the private sector need. And the private sector are getting frustrated. We want good students, and you don't get that. So I think it's a very innovative approach.
Well, Maya, thank you very much for coming from Jordan.
Thank you.
And Ron, congratulations on the
Pleasure.
success. We'll keep up with what's going on in the various countries with the EFE. Thank you very much for joining us and telling us
Thank
the
you,
story of
Reza.
the origins.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
And thank you for being with us. On the next show, we speak with Martin Luther King III, who's just returned from a trip to the Middle East, where he urged both Arabs and Jews to apply his father's philosophy of non-violence. Don't forget, if you have any thoughts about pressing issues around the world, send your emails to riz@aljazeera.net. We'll see you next time. Street Talk's up next.